Welcome to the first webinar dedicated to the Horizon Europe mission, A Soil Deal for Europe. This session, provided by the SOIL initiative, is designed to empower applicants and guide them through the funding opportunities for setting soil health living labs. Today, we will focus on the 2026 funding opportunities and provide you with our expert practical proposal guidance. A warm welcome to all of you and a special welcome to our honored speaker joining us today, Luis Sanchez Alvarez, Maria Jose Amaral, and Paula Eulalio. Luis is representing DG Agri, and Maria and Paula are from European Research Executive Agency. I'm also honored to welcome Dolinda Cavallo from the European Network of Living Labs. The webinar is moderated by Agnieszka Włodarczyk-Gębik and Urszula Woźniak from Kraków Technology Park in Poland. The webinar will provide you a strategic policy overview with hands-on proposal tips specifically tailored for first stage outline applications. Next, please. So before we begin, a few technical points. Please keep your microphone muted when you are not speaking. Please note that this session is being recorded, so anytime, any place, you can come back to that. The recording will be, and the presentations materials will be ready for you just shortly after the event, and the questions can be asked via the chat. Next, please. The webinar is developed by SOILL-Stepup, a project funded by the European Union Mission SOIL. Views expressed are solely those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect those of the European Union, of the European Research Executive Agency. Neither the EU nor the granting authority is responsible for them. The webinar is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0 international license. Next, please. So today's speakers, you already met myself. I'm Agnieszka, being honored to moderate this session. With me is Dolinda Cavallo, representing the European Network of Living Labs, but the first floor and our honor guests are, please next slide, Luis Sanchez Alvarez from DG Agri, Maria Jose Amaral and Paula Eulalio from European Research Executive Agency. So let's dive into today's agenda. What is in front of us? So first we start with overview of the SOIL project, the community of 35 already funded living labs, and the support we offer to applicants, and it will be presented by Dolinda. Then we'll have presentation of Luis Sanchez Alvarez, who will discuss the Mission SOIL Living Labs concept, the current state of play, and expectations for the 2026 topics. Next, we'll move to a crucial session on the evaluation process and lessons learned, and it will be shared, the reflection will be shared by Maria Jose Amaral and Paula Eulalio. This will provide you insights to stage 1 and stage application, highlighting the common strengths and challenges in the PAUS proposal, taking benefits from the lessons learned during the previous evaluation rounds. In their presentation, they will also include guidance on financial support to third parties. Finally, I will have a voice to share with you what SOIL community can offer you and which SOIL activities must be included in your proposal to ensure that projects are growing and bringing sustainability for the ecosystem. Then we will end with live Q&A session. Please, next. So, what is soil? So, to start this session, I'm delighted to give the floor to Dolinda. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Agnieszka. And I think we can go to the next slide already. I guess many of you already know it, but for those who are less familiar with SOIL, SOIL is the support structure for soil living labs, is a framework partnership agreement and has the aim to set up and run the open stop shop structure to coordinate and support the network of 100 living labs and lighthouses that are funded through the Mission SOIL. And we do this through three different projects. The first one was SOILL-Stepup that lasted from 2024 to 2025 with the aim to set up the basis and co-create with the first two waves of Living Lab the basic services of our support structure. But now we just started SOILL-Stepup. And so SOILL-Stepup aims to strengthen and expand this structure that we just created, and to, of course, improving and consolidating the service that we want to offer to the Mission Soil Living Labs and lighthouses funded through the mission. So if we go to the next slide, we can see how SOIL is a comprehensive framework because, of course, aims to support and empower the mission, the Living Labs funded through the mission, but also supports the applicants and those interested in apply for the funding opportunities, but also to engage with the wider soil health community and then to foster a collaborative ecosystem where all these different type of stakeholders can co-create solutions together. And we move to the next slide to see how what are the different macro activities that SOIL offer, from coordination and support of all this type of community and stakeholders, training and capacity building to support the growth of the living labs, engagement and promotion through different visibility strategies, events, and presentation of the living labs, and also monitoring and evaluation. So monitoring and ensuring that there is a growth of the living labs over time, and knowledge sharing and networking to facilitate the exchange among the stakeholders, and then the Soil Hub, that is our central platform for exchange and for giving visibility to the living labs. And so who are the targets of SOIL? Well, we have several targets. Our main target is, of course, the Mission Soil Living Labs at the lighthouse, that are those funded through the specific topics of the Mission Soil. But then we also target the European soil living labs and emerging living labs and lighthouses that are the living labs not specifically funded through the dedicated living labs topic of the Mission Soil, but still they are working in the soil context, and we support them to make sure that they can still align to the Mission Soil criteria. And then we, of course, target the whole soil community. But then our other target is actually the applicants. So the applicants, if we just give one click, the applicants are so all the stakeholders that are interested to apply for the future funding opportunities and join the community of Mission Soil Living Labs and lighthouses. Next slide. We have already produced several material on how to support and how to train the living lab design to support applicants in preparing their application, but also to understand better the concept of living labs. And you can see the material that we have produced in this slide. You can access it through the soil knowledge repository where you can have the QR code here, but I guess also my colleague will send the link. And you can, of course, access the material and understand better the concept of living labs. And then we can see in the next slides, yes, so those who already participated in the previous proposal, then some of them already won, and these are the overview of the map that displays the funded mission soil living labs that have been funded in the first with the first two waves of living labs, and here you can see also some key info of the mission soil living labs and the project funded through these specific topics, and how many living labs, for example, they are setting up in their projects. And then if we go to the next slide, you can see here the different objectives that the mission soil living labs are targeting, and then in the next slide, the different land use type that the funded living labs are already targeting. And so these are the community that we hope it will grow over the year, and then that we will support over the year. And I think my presentation is over, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, so I leave the floor to you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dolinda, and back to me. So thank you for the clear overview of the soil community and the offer that is already lying for applicants to take it. Now, to provide the policy context and the vision behind the Mission Soil Living Lab, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Luis Sanchez Alvarez, Head of Sector at DG Agri. Luis, we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. So yes, I'm here representing the Mission Soil Secretariat. I work in DG AGRI, as said, and I will try to provide you with general information about the policy approach and what is the role of the Living Labs and what is the mission about. So next, please. So, well, this slide on new missions is to clarify from the onset that the missions, if you are familiar with Horizon Europe, are a slightly different instrument. They are part of the program, but it's an attempt for the first time in this Horizon Europe to bring concrete solutions by 2030. So we are very much focused on impact, and there are 5 missions, and the soil deal for Europe is one of them. So I would say that for the preparation of your proposal, you always have to keep in mind what is highlighted at the bottom of the slide, which is we are trying to achieve here higher uptake of sustainable soil management practices on the one hand, and finally contribute to enhance soil health across the EU. So this should guide all the drafting. And if we can move on to the next slide. So this means in practice, when you're preparing your proposal, is that you have to try always to boost adoption of management practices that are sustainable on the ground. So it's key, and this is why the mission has the objective to create 100 living labs to involve land managers. And my colleagues from REA will explain different mechanisms. Financial support to third parties is one, but there are others, and other stakeholders. Also, the transdisciplinary approach, we are here pursuing behavioral change. So there should be a real integration of social sciences to enable continuous co-creation and social innovation. So it's not just that the land managers are involved, it's also that are effectively participating in co-creation. We also aim at valorizing new and existing knowledge and materials, and we will insist several times also on that from other projects like SOIL-L, other mission projects, all the living labs. There is a lot of knowledge and production there, so you will have to build on that. So this next point is on policy. No, sorry, no, bullet point, I meant. The mission has a strong policy anchor. For example, and probably the clearest example is the soil monitoring law, descriptors, for example, as the basis for set baselines, but also the CAP and other policies. The portfolio approach, so you have always to keep in mind that the proposal, if selected, will be part of a network. So it's very important to complement the existing network, but deliver unique results, and also coordination and building on the other project's results. And finally, it's also very important that new business models and sustainability in the long term are achieved. I think also it's an important reading, our mission implementation plan. We have a roadmap, so we have, let's say, a guidance to where we want to go. Next. So on policy, just to mention a few important policy initiatives, strategies, actions, starting in 2021 with the EU soil strategy for 2030. The vision there is to achieve healthy soils by 2050, and the mission contributes explicitly to several actions. The Common Agricultural Policy, probably one of the biggest investments in soil quality, 40 billion in this programming period, and the mission is also present in many CAP strategic plans. Recent regulatory policy developments, the Nature Restoration Law, the Carbon Removals and Carbon Farming Regulation, the Water Resilience Strategy, all of them consider the mission as an important contributor. And finally, of course, the Soil Monitoring Law, very recently adopted, which is the first EU law for soil. So we really need to deliver, and that's the role of all the projects, including the 100 living labs. Next, please. So these are the 8 mission soil-specific objectives. So one of the objectives of the mission is to create the 100 living labs, but at the end, the let's say aspirational objective is to improve soil health, and this translates into reducing desertification, increase soil carbon stocks, stop soil sealing, reduce pollution, etc. So I think this is also important. When you are drafting your proposal, you should focus on a limited number of relevant common shared soil health challenges. So those that are most relevant in your biogeographical areas of the topic or in the specific land use that is being addressed. I would also like to draw your attention to the EU Soil Observatory Soil Degradation Dashboard. So this is information on different degradation processes across the EU. So there you can also very easily identify what of these processes are prevalent in different biogeographical regions. Next, please. Quick slide to present what is the state of play of the mission implementation. So we have already programmed the 7 years under Horizon Europe, and you can see the budget. We have now finalizing the implementation, the grant agreement preparation and signature of the Work Program 25, and we are already, as this is the objective of this session, presenting, because it's already open, the calls for 26. The total investment is 800 million for the 7 years, which is way bigger than the investment made in the previous framework program and in the previous framework programs. And we have now like more than 60 ongoing projects with an investment already materialized, close to 500 and 900 participants. The mission projects are already covering a wide diversity of topics from the certification, so all the objectives I already mentioned, but also other cross-cutting or horizontal dimensions such as business models or the international dimension. Next, please. So as said before, we work in a portfolio approach. We also work in clusters, and this is something you also have to keep in mind. These 5 clusters that you have on your screen: data and knowledge, indicators and monitoring, communication and stakeholders engagement, business models and investment, and soil pollution and remediation are already ongoing, and there will be probably more in the future. And your participation is also expected depending on the, let's say, scope approach of your different of the different topics. So these clusters are led by the projects. Normally they have a very clear focus based on the project's interests, are supported by the Commission from DG AGRI, but also GRC and REA. They target specific outcomes, are open to other projects, non-mission projects. And if you want to know more, I strongly invite you to visit the Mission Soil platform website and check the fact sheets. Next. But there are many other activities powered by the Mission Soil platform that I would say differentiate the mission projects or the mission approach from other parts of the Horizon Europe program. For example, we have ambassadors in member states and in associated countries, almost 50, that spread the word about the mission objectives. We have also a non-binding manifesto with more than 3,500 signatories, individuals, and 700 organizations, and a strong communication outreach through social media, newsletter, events. We also collaborate more and more with other organizations, the clusters I already mentioned, and we also have a lot of international activity. Next. So I strongly recommend also to visit the Mission Soil platform so you are aware of all the activities, and you can also contextualize better what you are doing and know more about the project, what the projects are doing, because you have a lot of information there in the project hub, in the dashboard, etc. Next. So let's go a bit deeper into the living labs and lighthouses. Next slide. The objective, as mentioned before, and probably you all know, is to establish 100 living labs and lighthouses. The living labs are real sites in rural and urban areas, so we are looking at real farms, forest holdings, urban green areas, industrial areas, and we expect every single living lab to bring together around 10 to 20 of these real sites. It should be working at local or regional level, so there should be a strong connection between these sites and focus, as said before, in a limited number of challenges that are shared. They should create, of course, solutions adapted to the local conditions, and they should do that using participatory processes involving multiple stakeholders in this co-design, testing, monitoring, evaluation of solutions. For us, the living labs are long-term initiatives that will go or expect to go beyond the EU funding under Horizon Europe, should put users at the center, are place-based innovation approaches, transdisciplinary approaches on R&I. The lighthouses are sites, some of those sites that are reveal or show exemplary performance with regards to a specific practice. So are much more a place for demonstration, communication, training, to help adoption of sustainable practices, also supporting advisors and other actors on the ground. Next. So the objective that we have, which is create 100 living lives by 2030 is well on track and will be likely surpassed before 2030. We have already 45 living labs ongoing in 9 projects, so you can see that is 5 living labs per project on average. That's the investment also, and around 500 sites, more or less. So this is the expected evolution of the number of living labs, and we are now in the process of selecting the next 20 from the work program 25 that will start in 26. And you can see also what is our planning for the next years. I think you will see this map with the living labs several times from different, let's say, from different angles. And I also included this graph on participation by organization type because you can see, well, probably you cannot see because there is no comparison, but in principle, our living labs are already attracting many high diversity of actors. So not only research and innovation organizations, but also SMEs, public organizations, NGOs, associations, etc. Next. So this is to illustrate why we are launching these topics on specific biogeographical regions, in particular Alpine, Atlantic. So you can see that there is an unbalanced distribution of the living labs towards Southern Europe, covering some biogeographical regions, in particular Mediterranean, for example. So we want to really have a balanced and well-representative network of living labs in terms of different pedoclimatic conditions. And we are using these biogeographical regions as a proxy for that. Next. You can also see here another approach to look at the living labs. This is by land use, and you have seen a strong representation of agricultural land over urban, forestry, industrial, on natural and semi-natural. And this clearly explains why we are also focusing this year on managed forests, natural and semi-natural land. It doesn't mean that we want to have or we necessarily want to have the same number of everything. Because of course also, well, agriculture, for example, is 40% of surface area in the EU. But we, at the end, need to really have all the main soil challenges in different contexts represented. So keep that in mind. Also, you have to help us to address this challenge, and this is the purpose of the topics. Next. So these are the topics for 26. I already mentioned we expect 2 projects for biogeographical regions, Alpine and Atlantic, and 2 other projects for managed forest and in natural, semi-natural lands. The call is already open for the topics, the 2-stage topics, which is the case for these 2. And the closing date for the first stage will be 14th of April, and for the second stage, 15th of September. Next. Well, I will not stop here a lot. It's just for your information that there will be more Living Labs topics in 27. Some of them specifically addressing other biogeographical areas, other challenges as well, like eutrophication. We in the past have also addressed, for example, brownfields. And we go to next slide, please. We will also have 2 living labs with the cancer mission to address another specific challenge on carcinogenic substances in and originating from soils. Next slide. So if we go a little bit more in detail on the common aspects, expected outcomes in this slide for the 2 topics, mainly enhanced capacities for participatory, interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research, as was already mentioned, It's also important that we have improved soil health monitoring. With the soil monitoring law, this is one of the main areas the directive is addressing. We also want to have increased availability of high quality soil data at local and regional level, increase availability of practice-oriented knowledge and tools to land managers, and also for policymakers, so more effective policies can be designed. So in your application, you should select Alpine or Atlantic. And for the topic on managed forests, natural and semi-natural, you don't need to pick up one specifically. You can combine, but as I will repeat in several occasions, the point here is to present proposals that are consistent, and decisions made when combining, for example, different land uses are well justified, and especially when it comes to the soil challenge address. Next. On a scope, we expect 4 living labs, 5 to 4, but you saw that most of the living labs of the projects are creating 5 living labs with this multidisciplinary or the interdisciplinary participatory approach. There should be a clear rationale and mechanism for cooperation within and across living labs. This means that the 5 living labs in one project will also have to cooperate, and there should be clear mechanisms for cooperation and communication, and of course, inside every single living lab across the different sites. Solutions should be adapted to the context, environmental, socioeconomic, and cultural. It's also very important you clearly establish at the beginning baselines and appropriate indicators to monitor the evolution of soil health, hopefully the improvement. This is not just about science and technical solutions, it is about economical, social, environmental viability. As said at the beginning, we really want to change behaviors and foster adoption. Propose strategies for the long-term sustainability of the living labs after also the EU funding under Horizon Europe. Identify lighthouses, so you should have a methodology to identify the lighthouses when they emerge. Start these participatory approaches and also consider longer time scales compared maybe to other projects, at least 5 years, because we are working with soil. Next. Yeah. So other additional elements that I already mentioned, you should have a good integration of social sciences, humanities, and the arts to enable all these dynamics that should happen in the living lab. Dedicated tasks to collaborate with SOILL, the infrastructure support to living labs. Build on the 16 knowledge, as I already mentioned. Cooperate with other projects, in particular with other mission projects, with Horizon partnerships, with, for example, CAP operational groups where relevant, and if relevant. The EU Soil Observatory, the SoilWise project, which is a project collecting information from all the mission projects, the Mission Soil Platform that I already mentioned, the clusters, etc. And make sure that you ensure the involvement of different types of actors. Next. So basically the main differences, I think it was clear across my presentation, but for the Alpine Atlantic topic, the approach is much more biogeographical region, pedoclimatic specific, so can be multi-land use. The important point here is the weather, soil conditions, and should look at challenges, could be erosion, water regulation, peatlands, etc. For forests instead is much more the land use, which is the driver, so it could be multi-region and should look at different challenges that are common or can be addressed under one project, including, for example, diffuse pollution, impact from surrender areas, biodiversity, forest management. The policy anchoring is very similar, and I would say is horizontal when it comes to soil strategy, biodiversity, soil monitoring law, but it could be the CAP, for example, the Common Agricultural Policy, were relevant depending on the land use, the EU forest strategy very clearly for the other topic, and solutions should be replicable for different challenges across the same biogeographical regions or across other different types of forest in different regions. Next. So finally, some specificities, well, already mentioned, I think, majority of 5 living labs should be allocated in the Alpine or Atlantic and address soil health challenges relevant to the chosen biogeographical region. So I would like to insist on that. You should indicate which of these two regions is in the focus of the project and place the majority of the living labs in that biogeographical region. The remaining living labs could be located in other biogeographical regions, but again, it should be justified why are in other places and how this contributes to the overall consistency of the project. If you have proposals or you are thinking in a proposal under this topic involving all the living labs in forest or natural, semi-natural land types, you should then go to the other topic and exclude from this one. Next. Okay, well, this is just to show you a practical example that could have been applied for the previous work program, 2 years ago. So you see, for example, a project with 5 living labs that is focusing on 4 specific objectives, including, for example, erosion or pollution, is working in 2 land uses, agriculture and forestry, so covering arable land, permanent grassland, forest, for example. So you see also the different challenges. And, for example, 10 sites in one of the living labs. For example, one living lab, hypothetic, in Belgium, covering arable crops, addressing 2 specific objectives. You can involve different actors. So you see with these pictures, farmers, other people from society, government, research. So it can, actors can receive support from non-consortium members, such as farmers. So this, for example, through the Cascade grants. And solutions that could be tested could be regenerative livestock or grazing practices. But well, the variety of solutions here is huge. With this FSTP, for example, you could add more sites. So if the starting point is 10 sites in the proposal, then through the FSTPs, it should be also explained, of course, more sites could be added. So other partners that have more difficulties to be beneficiaries can also be part of the project. Next, I think that was the last one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis. On behalf of all of us listening to you carefully, we are very grateful for you to share your expertise, but also very personal view on the lessons learned and valuable insight you gathered during your work supporting Mission Soil. So thank you very much. I could see many questions being raised. So if I could redirect you to Q&A box instead of chat box, that would be great and would support us in reacting, the whole team behind working to support you. Would be very grateful. Now I would like to welcome Maria Jose Amaral and Paula Eulalio from the European Research Executive Agency, who will share crucial lessons learned from the past applications. So Maria, Jose, and Paola, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. So I will start with this presentation. I will give you an overview of the evaluation process and criteria, and then my colleague Maria Jose Amaral will continue with the lessons learned from previous evaluations, and also she will explain a bit more the FSTP element. So next, yes, so this is the agenda. As I said, I will touch up on the first point. Next, please. Thank you. So what we see here, we are going to use a two-stage evaluation process for the 2026 and 2027 call. And this is the same that has been used in the previous work program, the 2025, for these mission topics that are Living Lab specific. And this is because a high number of proposals is foreseen, and also proposals with a high level of complexity. So these two-stage evaluations are really much beneficial for both sides, from the applicant's point of view and also from the evaluator's point of view. So from the applicant side, the procedure allows more time for applicants to revisit what their proposals, their ideas, and to improve them. While from the evaluator point of view, the approach allows to filter in the first step a high number of applications that are visibly resubmissions or not very well thought and without a lot of effort, and really focus on the second step on those very promising proposals. It therefore increases the quality of the proposals, the success rate among the second stage applicants. And indeed, this will be the standard type of mode of evaluation process that we will use in 2026, and also looking forward for the 27 Living Lab topics. So in terms of the timelines, as you see in the slide, it is expected that for each step, the first and the second stages, we have between 2 and 2.5 months of time for the applicants to submit their applications, as from the opening of the call to its closure. While for the whole evaluation process, it takes more or less 3 months from the time that the call is closed and until the applicants are informed. And then the grant agreement preparation is done well, as fast as possible, of course, but always within the maximum legal length of 8 months. So in the next slide, please. We can see already which are the topics for this next Mission Soil call. I will not go into details because Luis have just explained them very well. The same for the timelines that are again indicated here as a reminder. So you have for the first stage deadline in April, and for the second stage in September. And what I want to highlight here are the differences between these two stages. So for the first stage application, your proposals will be short, so 10 pages max, because only excellence and part of the impact criteria have to be submitted. So there will be no quality and let's say efficiency of the implementation that has to be submitted. And applicants will be informed early July about the results. And for the second stage, there are yes, indeed. For the second stage, the consortium is invited to submit the full proposal, and everything has to be in excellence, impact, and implementation criterion have to be fulfilled, and the results are expected in December. So in the next slide, please, we can see the scoring threshold per criteria. So for the first stage applications, the thresholds for both individual criteria, excellence and impact, is 4 out of 5. And this means that only those attaining 4 could eventually pass to the second stage, while this overall cut to proposals that are admitted to the second stage is set as close as possible to 2 times the budget, the available budget for this topic. So meaning that the threshold is not fixed, and the actual level will depend also on the volume of proposals that are received. While on the second stage, the threshold for impact and implementation criteria remain, yes, let's say in the normal 3 out of 5 points, but the threshold for the excellent criteria is increased to 4, as well as the overall threshold is increased to 12 instead of the typical 10 before. And these raise of the thresholds, they are not new. Let's say they apply since 2025 call, and it's linked basically to the inclusion of the specific ranking rules connected to the biogeographical regions that are in focus of the topic, and also now in this 2026 call to the rules on the land uses. So for the 2026 call, as you see in the right-hand side of the slide, the ranking phase will take in consideration that we need to found at least one proposal in each of the biogeographical regions for the first topic, and that we will look at founding one proposal in each of the land uses that are in scope of the second topic. And with this, we want to say that it's really key that proposals identify very clearly the focus of the project according to the topic. And indeed, so this is basically the message. And after the ranking is established, the proposals that pass the individual threshold and the overall threshold are the ones that can be considered for funding. And this is always limited with available budget. So in the next slide, we can see already this is basically, and before getting more into details of the content of the application, I wanted to recall these two basic general conditions that are the first aspects you need to take into consideration if you're preparing a proposal to be admissible and eligible. And this is basically very quickly that they has to be submitted, of course, before the call deadline. It has to use the forms provided for the specific topic. It has to contain all the parts, to include also an exploitation and dissemination plan with communication activities. It has to be readable, it has to be accessible and in scope. As well, important about the eligibility conditions, it has to include as beneficiaries 3 legal entities independent from each other, established in a country, in different countries, as indicated in the slide. So at least one independent legal entity in a member state, and the other two, or at least two, independent legal entities established in different member states or associated countries. And this is, in this, if we identify the similar proposals submitted in parallel to several topics in the same call, the applicant will be asked to apply to only one topic, of course. So in the next slide, we can dive a bit now more into the proposal template itself. So as you see, and as you know, the complete application should contain the part A, B, and then the annexes. As usual, the part A is filled directly online, while the part B has to be uploaded as a PDF document. And here we show in the slide that this important that the structure of the template is really followed when preparing the proposal. This proposal template has been designed in a way that it clearly presents which are the key aspects of the planned work that have to be explained to allow experts to assess it correctly and using the different evaluation criteria. And as explained before, there are 2 stages for the Living Lab topics in the next call. And so the template, the proposal template for stage 1 is different from the proposal template for stage 2. The slides are showing here in a simplified way, which are the, with a color code, which are the criteria that, that have to be filled in for the first stage, that as you see is excellence and just one part of the impact, while for the second stage, a complete form has to be submitted. So in the next slide, please, we can see also some differences between first and second stage specific to the Living Lab Topics application template. And this is the presence of these tables that have been introduced since 2024. And they're tables that are there to capture key information on the Living Labs. The tables are not asking extra information, it's really summarizing what is already required by the topic text. And it has the objective to organize the information both at consortium level, but also for the evaluators to then evaluate it. Important is to say that these tables come as a bit an answer or a feedback from comments received from expert evaluators, also from the national contact points and from applicants. And so we have introduced these templates, these tables in the template to improve them and to try to make it more clear to everyone the information on the Living Labs. So in the next slide, please, we can also see other changes in the template. So still under methodology, because here we have changes for the first stage and for the second stage. So for both stages, so under methodology, section 1 of excellence, the section 1 of excellence. So other changes that are implemented since 2025, so since last year, is to bring further attention to the fact that it is very important, the interdisciplinarity and the transdisciplinarity approaches within the Living Labs. And this includes the role of the social science and humanities. And as I said, this applies for both stages. But then in addition, only for the second stage, there is an update done in section 3 that is about to better capture the budget allocation to the different Living Labs and to the participants, as well to understand the role and the contributions of the participants at the Living Lab level. And these changes are there also to ensure that applicants reflect better and think better on these specific aspects that are very key for the Living Lab topics when they are preparing their proposals. In the next slide, please. Here we can see also other changes that have been implemented in the proposal templates, but this is new for 2026, and this is more generic, is for at the level of Horizon Europe to all proposal templates. So overall, the structure remains the same, but still there are some changes that affected the number of pages of the full proposals. And this is good news because the total number have been reduced of 5 pages. So now, for instance, for REA, as these Living Lab topics are, the page limit will be 14. So which are these changes? So if we see in section 2 of impact, the guidance and the instructions that are given on the pathways to the expected impacts of the topic have changed. So this means that the explicit requirement to describe scale and significance is not there anymore, has been removed. And this was based on the fact that it was not consistently understood by applicants and evaluators, but the main requirement remains the same. So the main requirement to describe and to narrate the contributions that the project results would make to the expected outcomes of the topic and to the expected impacts of the mission soil in this case remain there. And this is requested also to quantify these estimates. And this is important. Then the other change that I want to highlight is the one done in section 3 of implementation. And these are more related to simplification of the information that needs to be provided based on the budget tables. These are simple changes, and it allows more applicants to pay attention to the work plan itself.
I think we will need to almost conclude this
Yes.
presentation. Thanks.
Is the last this is the slide. So just to finalize, this is the evaluation criteria, and it follows, of course, the proposal template criteria, and it has been slightly adapted in accordance to the few changes that I mentioned before, but it's there to also to help the evaluators, and it also distinguishes between stage 1 and stage 2 with the color code. Thank you, and I now give the floor to my colleague.
Yeah, thank you. So we can go throughout the lessons learned from the Living Lab evaluations. And here, of course, we are still, it's the first time in 2025 that we had this two-stage approach, as Paola mentioned, and we are still on it. So we are still now preparing the evaluation for the second stage proposals. So of course, the results that I'm going to present here are lessons learned from 2023 to 2025, so not only specific to first stage. So just an overview of what has been submitted in previous years. So always the topics have had either this bottom-up approach until 2024, or they were specific on some soil health challenges or some land use. Now it's clear in 2026, 2027 that we are going always with very specific either biogeographical areas or land uses, and the proposals that apply should take this in consideration. So we are not looking anymore for proposals that are on any type of land use or on any type of soil health challenge. Just a little bit of insight for 2025, we had 30 proposals that were evaluated. On the biogeographical regions focus, we had 42% that were invited to the second stage. So only proposals that have been submitted to the first stage can be invited, of course, to the second stage. And then on the brownfield topic, which was in 2025 still a one-stage topic, we had 4 proposals that were above threshold. When we look at the proposals, we look as experts, as Paola mentioned, that look at specific aspects in line with the proposal template, and they use this evaluation criteria to assess the proposals. And what our experts, the expertise that they represent is both on soil health monitoring, on the soil health challenges and solutions that can be implemented in the different types of land uses, and on knowledge exchange and SSH. So there is always representatives of these 3 key expertises that they are able to go through the proposals and evaluate all aspects of the proposals. Next slide. So also a little bit of insight into 2025, just to give a bit of an idea for 2026, what are we talking when we are asking for specific biogeographical regions? It means that the proposals need to have a focus in one of them, and that the majority of the living labs that they are proposing needs to be located in one of these biogeographical regions. So what did we see in 2025? The majority of the proposals did answer correctly to the topic, and they had the main focus in one of these biogeographical regions, Alpine, Boreal, or Continental for 2025, but they had sometimes living labs in other biogeographical regions, but the majority was still located in one of these focus regions of the topic. And this is important. Why? Because when they go now to the second stage, we are aiming to fund one for each biogeographical region. So it means that if we will go through the ranking and we'll change the order to ensure within the limits of the thresholds that Paola explained, which is the proposal that gets funded, to try and have this ideal of one continental, one boreal, and one alpine focused proposal. Of course, there were some proposals that didn't have a main focus, and these proposals, though they can answer other parts of the topic, they do not answer to the key criteria of the topic, and therefore they are not invited to the second stage. If we go to the next slide, also to show that within these biogeographical regions, proposals were selecting different soil health challenges. They were also addressing different land uses. Still, agriculture was the main one. Next slide. When we go more in detail to what works well and what works not, and again here it's from 2023 to 2025, important things to take in account is that the topic has not remained static. So there were adjustments to the topic from one year to the other. So again, for 2026, there are adjustments that go beyond the focus of the biogeographical regions or the land uses. But we tend to see some of the issues repeated, and this goes both from the objectives not being fully pertinent or not specific enough, and raising concerns if they can be achieved within the time duration of the proposals, to a lack of details on what are the soil management solutions that are to be implemented and how this co-creation and co-implementation process will really advance them in the state of the art, allowing for their on-the-ground implementation and adjustments where needed in the different sites of the living labs. How the baseline has been established, what are the drivers in the regions are also not sufficiently considered. This links with what Louise was presenting with this EUSO degradation grant. So it's important to focus the living labs in aspects that are important in the regions where they are being established. Then more on this co-creation, this participatory approach, that the cooperation within and between the different living labs, so within the sites, the actors within one living lab, but also across the living labs of a proposal, are poorly operationalized. The needs of the land managers, so this is a topic for the land managers for implementing on-the-ground solutions, but their needs are not sufficiently considered in the solutions that are offered and in the activities that are planned. The monitoring approach for soil health is not robust enough. How the different disciplines and specifically the social sciences and humanities come into the framework of the work, into the concept, into the methodological approaches, not well integrated and carefully enough. And this results that the mechanisms for the continuous co-creation and active engagement of stakeholders and end users is usually not robust, not sufficiently described, not detailed enough to understand that, yeah, it is something that will happen in reality during the project lifetime. Then, of course, and this becomes more an issue of what is the impact of these activities on the ground, how the sustainability of the living labs is thought of after the project. Louise mentioned the money from Horizon Europe is just to kickstart the activities. The living labs then should be self-sustained in the future. So these are important aspects that many proposals also do not consider. And then, of course, we also have the issues related with the data that they are producing and how gender is considered overall in the approach. Next slide. In terms of impact, again, we see very poor or not sufficiently detailed impact pathways. So this is how the results that the project will achieve will be used to make a contribution to the expected outcomes that were defined at the topic. So sometimes even when contributions are identified, they are too generic or vague without estimates, or the estimates lack credibility, are over ambitious, and there's not sufficient rationale to support them. Many times the proposals talk about creating new capacity building materials, trainings, but it's again not enough detailed on how these are needed, how they will be used by the land managers, and how the use of these materials will create this enhancing of the capacity of land managers to implement more innovative solutions on the ground. In terms of the dissemination activities, and this again only for stage 2 proposals, because these aspects are not implemented in that do not have to be described in the first stage proposals. Again, they are too generic, they are not sufficiently tailored to the ones where you want to make a difference with your results. And again, aspects of the post-project, the dissemination and exploitation of results are not sufficiently considered. And next slide. Implementation, again, this is again not fully relevant for the first stage proposals, but it is important to already consider this, even if you are just developing a 10-page proposal, that when you go to the work plan and when and particularly when you are invited to the second stage, you really need to make sure that all the tasks, the work packages are integrated, that the tasks have the right level of detail, that the timing of the living lab activities is well thought, because if you only leave them for too late, then you are not able to implement activities on the ground to monitor the improvements on soil health. So all the timing is crucial, and this really already for the first stage, you have to have it well thought. You are expected to collaborate with SOILL and with other living labs and mission soil projects. Also, Louise already mentioned this. So you also have to have resources for these collaborations, but also for all the other activities. And these resources need to make sense and need to make sense to allow for this engagement of the land manager. So if you are not, if they are not directly in the consortium as beneficiaries, because they are rather small, it would be too complex to involve them as beneficiaries, then you need to have a really well thought way to engage them on the ground. So this would be through the financial support to third parties, but also other activities that I will describe in the following presentation. In terms of risks, sorry, the slides changed. In terms of risks, of expertise, and of the partner contributions, again, many times they are too vague, too generic, not really related with the proposal at stand. So, and with specifically for the living labs, the expertise on the social sciences and participatory approaches is many times lacking or not clear enough from the information that is provided. And also what is the roles of the different partners and contributions to the living lab activities. Because of course, if you have a big consortium, you might have people representing the different actors, the different sectors, but if they are all in the country where one of the living labs is established, you need to show how the other living labs can also benefit from those expertise, or ensure that they can have access to this expertise at their level, because all the living labs should be established in a similar way and have access to the same conditions of resources, of expertise, and of partners being involved. Next slide. So very summary of lessons learned, and this also includes feedback that the experts provide to us on an overarching level, not on a specific proposal, that there is a need to make better use of existing capacity building. So we are talking about these webinars, of all the material that SOILL has made available in the past, to link better the objectives with the work plan and the plan task activities. Why this is also important to think, even for a first stage proposal, to focus more on interdisciplinarity and SSH to support a good stakeholder engagement, upscaling and transferability, and behavioral change to boost adoption of sustainable management solutions on the ground. To have quality level co-creation process and multi-actor approach implemented, so to have these roles and responsibilities well defined, to consider the needs of practitioners. And in general, we know everyone keeps saying impact is challenging, so do put some effort on your impact section and how your results are being used to contribute to the expected outcomes of the topic. Do not neglect part A of the proposal, where there's information on partners, because this is actually where we can see if you have the expertise to support the different activities that you are expected to deliver. Next slide. So now I go on the financial support to third parties. So this again is relevant for the full proposals, because in the first stage proposals, you do not have to include a detailed budget table. And you don't have also to provide this annex explaining how you are doing financial support to third parties, or you don't have also to explain in detail a budget, how you would engage actors in the living lab activities. But it is key already in the first stage that you know how you are going to engage these smaller actors. And if you do plan to use financial support to third parties, you need to have already a process in mind. So next slide. It's not mandatory. Even if we are dedicating several slides to it, it's not a mandatory, it's an option of the consortium. And we are just doing these slides and this presentation because it's where we usually receive more questions from potential applicants and also the national contact points. Why do we allow financial support to third parties in these living lab topics is to allow the active involvement of smaller actors that would not be easily engaged as beneficiaries or other types of partners because it would be too complex for them to go through all the process. We are talking about smaller actors, land managers, owners, SMEs, civil society, so smaller actors that would not join in any other way. They will receive the financial support to third parties if decided as grants with or without a call for proposals. And we have seen from the past topics that there is usually a majority of proposals that do consider making use of this instrument. The no-call option can only be used when the smaller actors are already identified at proposal stage. Still, we see that despite being used by many proposals, there is a varied understanding on the rationale and the correct implementation, and why I'm presenting these slides today, so that we have also, we create more awareness on how this instrument can be correctly used. There's very limited information on financial support to financial support to third parties in the first stage proposals because, as I mentioned, we don't have a budget table, we don't have the section on implementation, so all these details are not part of the proposals. Next slide. But what we can see that there's been issues with from the past proposals, full proposals that have been evaluated. There's a lack of alignment between the project level objectives and the proposed recipient activities of the financial support. No tasks are included in the work plan, or they are only vaguely defined to implement the financial support. And there are many inconsistencies between what is written in the main part of the proposal and the financial support to third parties annex that needs to be obligatory included if this option is used. When we talk about the recipients, there's not enough information on who they are, how they have been selected, how they would be selected if there is a call for proposals, and how they will be actually engaged in the co-implementation and co-testing of solutions on the ground. Many times the financial support to third parties is used to implement activities that are not linked with the living labs and are more focused on dissemination, outreach, or other support services. So this is not the aim for the financial support to third parties. And when we talk about the calls, and for the financial support to third parties, sometimes they are too late in the project to allow a real engagement. There are too many, or with too little budget, or with too little budget for each of the third parties. So they create a very burdensome process that it's not relevant for the actors that could benefit from these activities. Next slide. So there are different parts where to include the financial support to third parties. I will focus now very specifically on the text in pink, which is the one relevant for the first stage proposals, and this is where relevant to clarify the objectives and the general approach and methodology. So this means even for the first stage, if you are planning to use financial support to third parties as your main mechanism to engage smaller actors in the living lab activities, this should be clearly spelled out in your first stage proposals. The other aspects come for the second stage and for the full proposals. Next slide. In terms of points to consider, you really need to think if you're going to do a call with the smaller actors to be identified, or a no call if they are already pre-identified. You need to think about the purpose, if it's to add experimental sites, if it's to involve actors that you need to have in the co-creation process. And you really need to think about the timing so that it allows for the early involvement in the living lab activities, which is the main activities that you should be developing in your projects. For the specific types of activities of the third parties, you should think about management of the sites, implementation of the soil health solutions on the ground, the equipment, the time that they spend, compensations for lost productions. If you expect that these third parties are helping you with sampling and monitoring or data collection or participating in capacity building and demonstration and awareness activities, this is what you should keep in mind when you are calculating, when you are thinking about the type of activities, but of course also calculating how much you are going to award to each third party. We are talking again of land managers and owners such as farmers, SMEs, or civil society. We are not doing this for the big industrial actors or researchers that can come as beneficiaries. When you're thinking also, when you are describing the type of categories of persons for the financial support to third parties with call, think about the typology of the sites, the minimum number of hectares that you need, so that you clearly ahead tell us what are you looking for. Next slide. Of course, you need to inform about the maximum budget and the criteria for calculating how each third party, the maximum that they can get. And this, of course, relates with the activities that you expect from them. If you are organizing a call, you need to think about the award criteria, openings and deadlines, and how people can apply to you and how you can guide them, what will be the evaluation process. If there is no call, what you really need to demonstrate is the alignment between the type of activities and the persons that you have pre-selected. But also, of course, there are tasks, the type of tasks after the contracts are signed. They are similar between the calls and the no calls. All the reporting and payment process is similar for the two types of financial support to third parties. And then, of course, you need to make all the information public on who is awarded, when were they awarded, where, in which country, and where they are. And you need to make also use of several of the communication channels that already exist, from the Funding and Tenders portal to the Mission Soil website, and of course the project website. Next. But financial support to third parties is not everything, so you might also consider that there are other ways that in your project it makes sense to include the smaller actors, and this could be with purchasing costs, with subcontracting costs, or non-monetary valuation. So you have different types of expenses that you can pay from the project activities, for example, for their time, for collecting a sample or expert advice, for their involvement in communication and dissemination activities, to different aspects. I will not go in detail, to making machinery available, to paying for seeds, or for the analysis that need to be done at the site level. So there's other ways to consider. Financial support to third parties is not the only, but what is important is that in your proposal, you explain clearly how you are going to engage these key smaller actors that are needed for all the proposals. And just to say that I think in the next slide, that specifically regarding the financial support to third parties, we already have published 3 questions on the Funding and Tenders portal, that with answers on how, when should you use, what do you need to keep in mind if you are planning to use financial support to third parties. And I think this is my last slide.
Okay, thank you very much, Maria, Jose, Paula, and Luis, for this impressive expertise and impressive amount of knowledge you shared with us. Definitely, it is very important to understand the wide expectation, but also requirements of DG Agri and European Research Executive Agency towards Soil Living Lab. So thanks for that. And it was top-down perspective shared with us with the experts. And let's now go to the bottom-up perspective, how to practically design your living lab and which specific soil building blocks may you integrate in your application. So please, next. So as you already know from the previous presentation and slides, living labs are linked in the two topics shown on the right side and match the mission soil values. They should be clearly included in the proposals because they need specific tasks and resources to work with soil values. And what was said also today, that try to complement the NORC but deliver unique results to create the real impact that Maria Jose was also mentioning today. We all know that competition is high, and working on soil mission in startup, we delivered some tools that may be supporting you on the way of project preparation. So please go next. So this here you can see the blocks of activities that can be supporting you during the process: coordination and support, training and capacity building, engagement and promotion, soil hub, knowledge sharing, networking, and monitoring and evaluation. Let's go further. I will deep dive into some of them. As I can see, we have a very limited time. So regarding the training and capacity building, here there are two soil services that are especially important to reflect in your proposal. These are online group trainings, you can see above, and in-person boot camps. Online trainings, we plan around 7 a year, covering different topics to support you as the Living Lab development and soil monitoring work. Please plan and allocate sufficient staff time to attend and follow up on these sections. On the other side, the boot camps, they will take place once a year, and they will be delivered in person. So also think about allocating money in your budget for staff and travel and accommodation. Going further to the next slide, we also are ready to support you with knowledge sharing and networking. We know all how much networking and building a stronger ecosystem is important. So this activity aims to foster collaboration, support you with knowledge exchange and mutual learning among the mission soil living labs and beyond. And there you can see the site visits that you can organize and host or host knowledge exchange activities and participation in soil working groups. Again, your proposal should reflect the human resources and travel budget needed to join those activities. Please go next. Monitoring and evaluation plays a critical role in ensuring that living labs and lighthouses can assess their progress, share insight, and continuously improve their approaches and growth. It really reflects that living labs are supported and assisted. So to support you in this area, we created monitoring and evaluation framework to provide a structured and effective evaluation process for both living labs and lighthouses. So what you will benefit from is a set of guidelines that was already created in the soil startup. The first 2 years we already work on within the mission soil. Annual evaluation of the progress and state of the art of the living lab and lighthouses, report that includes the results of the monitoring to the mission soil, and set of recommendations and points for improvement for each living lab. This activity is mandatory and will take place annually during the first quarter of the year. So again, you have to dedicate time and personnel costs. Going to our Soil Hub, please go to the next page. We also created to support you in your process of creating the Living Lab Soil, Health Soil Living Lab is one-stop collaborative platform that already exists and was also shown by Dolinda in her presentation. It connects Mission Soil Living Labs and lighthouses with the wider Mission Soil community, applicants, and other stakeholders working on soil-related topics. So definitely after today's webinar, go there and present your Living Lab, setting a profile and enriching the Living Lab Atlas. It is just the fantastic collaborative space designing to support knowledge sharing and informal exchange across the community. Going further regarding engagement and promotion, there are two main activities I would like to raise your interest. That is the SOIL annual engagement event that is usually organized along the European Soil Mission Week. And here again, you please thinking about these engagement activities, make sure your proposal includes staff time for participation and budget for travel and accommodation costs. Next, please. So here in this chart, you can see the activities that should be listed into the budget. These activities are online and where active actions are mandatory, you have them in red. You have how regularly they are organized and what kind of costs should be implemented in the budget. On the next slide, where we have activities in present, as already was said, collaboration with Soil Living Lab is a backbone, is a fundament for mentioned two topics. That is why it is highly recommended that you join these activities. What is the most important annual engagement event, bootcamp, site visits, and peer knowledge exchange session. And again, take it to consideration the budget to assign to each activity you decide to add to your application form and to your activity plan. Annual engagement event once per year, bootcamp training once per year for 1-2 days, site visits if you are going there, so you have to calculate the cost of travel, etc. If you are hosting and inviting another Living Lab to see how we are working, what laboratories you have, experimental sites, etc. You have to reserve some sum of money for organizational costs. These activities are not only logistical requirements, they are strategic opportunities for Living Labs to learn, strengthen the Living Labs and or lighthouses, and definitely share best practices across the network. And now over to Dolinda.
Yeah, I will be very quick. Anyhow, you will receive the slides, but we go to the next slide just to say that we offer several other tools to support the applicants. And yeah, we can go very quickly. The mentors, you have a list of mentors that can support you in national language in our website. Then next slide, we will organize other webinars in the next month. So you can subscribe to our newsletter and follow the website and our social media to sign up for the next webinar. Then next slide, we organize a matchmaking event that is going to happen next Monday on the 9th of March. And on the matchmaking platform, so you can subscribe to the platform and join the event to find partners or join maybe consortia for or find other proposals to join. And then next slide, we have several resources that we have produced to support applicants. You can find all these resources at fact sheet and pathway, all the steps to apply for this calls on our website. So you will receive all these links in our follow-up email. And then, very important, we have a help desk. We have set up a help desk to support specific questions from applicants. And so you can access the help desk through the hub, and you can also access the FAQ, where you can find questions already asked that can support your proposal. And I think, next slide, yeah, so we are already late. Maybe we can take one or two questions that were previously shared.
So maybe continue, Dolinda, if you could so.
Yeah. So maybe I'm not sure if our guests want to address some of these questions.
Could we ask our experts to answer the questions? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can address the first one. So managed forest, I think, are defined in the topic as forests where human activities such as timber production, habitat management, recreation take place. Natural, semi-natural lands could be those within, for example, national parks, nature reserves, protected areas like natural grasslands, headlands, where human intervention is there is no human intervention or is very light intervention, I would say. On this topic, in any case, I would like to clarify that applicants should clearly indicate if the proposal is for managed forest or for natural, semi-natural lands. So I think it was not very clear in the presentation. Maria, you said you want to complement? No? Okay. The other question, on which level of maturity must a living lab demonstrate to qualify for the call? So we are here creating living labs, so you don't really need to, let's say, present a high level of maturity. But on the other hand, so it's for new living labs. But on the other hand, what is important is the level of maturity of the proposal. So the more you can already specify about sites, for example, methodologies, I think the better for the evaluators to understand the quality of the proposal. So I think with that, this is answered. And the last one on an established network which monitors forest catchments could potentially participate. Well, I don't see in principle any problem. I think the general rule here is, well, there should be a clear contribution to the objectives of the topic, to the expected outcomes, to the scope, and well integrated in the overall proposal. So I stop here, maybe pass the floor to Maria.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Luis. So I would take the opportunity to answer. In the next slide, there is a question on the results, outcomes, and impact on the context of a living lab, and this was also one of the questions that is still not answered in the Q&A. So we talk about projects have contributions to the topic expected outcomes and to the mission impacts. Projects by themselves are not achieving the outcomes. They are contributing together with the other projects that are funded under the same call for those outcomes. So how does this contribution happen? It happens via the results. So picking up on the example of the outcome related with the improved soil health monitoring, what do we mean? What are the results that you can have? So the fact that you have established a robust monitoring system in the 5 living labs, that you are providing data to demonstrate improvements in soil health. This is a result. That the policymakers and the practitioners are having access to this data. This is a result. An output can be the protocols, they can be the number of soil health data sets that are available. And then the outcome, how do you measure your contribution to the outcome? How you are thinking about the number of stakeholders that will have access to this data and that can make informed decisions on this data that you created. And you're talking about spillover effects in the regions where the living labs are established, so that other stakeholders, other actors in the same regions of the living labs are taking over your protocols for monitoring soil health, or the results that you have observed in terms of soil health improvement, and they are also acting on them. So really is about the robust monitoring system, the protocols that you are using, and the data sets that you are creating and that can be used by others in their activities, including also policymakers. And of course, the 4 expected outcomes, they are interconnected. So there are results that you are producing as part of your project that will be relevant for more than one expected outcome.
Thank you so much. There is still 2 questions, right?
Maybe I can pick these other 2 if you allow me. They are the second one has basically been answered in written. So indeed, as was also in written, any individual or organization, legal organization that can participate of these topics, but a participation does not mean always funding. So there is a list of countries that are automatically eligible for funding, and this is very clear in the general annexes of Horizon Europe. This can be consulted online. And then there are these other third countries that not automatically eligible for funding, and this can participate bearing their own costs, so as associated partners, for instance. Then there is this other, I think that part of the question was asking, yes, if there are some exceptions. Indeed, I'm linking to the third question. There are, as I said, any legal entity can participate, but there are exceptions that are the sanctions. We call them countries that have sanctions. And as you may imagine, these are basically Russia, Belarus, non-government controlled territories of Ukraine. There are also some exclusions referring to China and also to Hungary. But this can be also checked in the Horizon Europe annexes, as I just said. So not to go into details and take too much time.
Yes, thank you so much. I think we have addressed almost all the questions, and we're just finalizing some last questions that you were asking in the Q&A box. But since we are already late, we can close now the webinar. Yeah, next slide.
Okay, with some conclusions. First of all, I think that, having heard today's presentations of our experts and also the practical insights from SOIL initiative, SOIL-Stepup team, I would say I would say rethink the concept of application form, because as we could hear, the competition is very, very high, and the criteria are also very demanding. We will share with you, you can go further, it is just a reminder about the topics. We will share with you all the information and the presentations, the questions that has been asked on the website that is here presented. Visit the SOIL Hub, where you can find the help desk, but also you can look for other soil living labs. You can make some strategic synergies, some strategic partnership. And if you have any questions, you can also come back to us and we provide you the information that is general and applicable for all potential soil living labs. For today, thank you all very much for your time and for joining us today, for all questions being asked that we try to answer. We also would like to share with you the request to complete the feedback form in the chat. If not, if there is enough time, because you can also do it when getting the link in the email after today's webinar. Also, in this email, you will get the invitation on the online networking event planned for 9th of March. I think it's all for today. I don't know, Dolinda, if you would like to add something.
No, I think we can thank everyone and close the webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.